I used to like smelling a vape, the vape pen. I really like the smell of like the whatever that chemical shit is, and then I would like stick it all the way up my nostril, like Arnold
not
Schwarzenegger.
Inhale, like actually inhale it. You would just smell the thing. You would just smell the vape
I
pen.
would stick the part you put in your mouth up my nose, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall, trying to get that tracker out of his body.
I don't remember that part. The only part I remember is that one guy that like turns red and like bursts.
Len?
Yeah. That was a running joke for
That was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah.
He was on the surface of Mars and
Okay.
all right, we're live. You wanna
Okay, hello. Oh my god, my voice. Why do I always get really scratchy when I get down here?
because you're nervous.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Higher Self Take the Wheel. And I am Sophia with my husband, Scott. Say hi.
Hey, hi.
Hey, hi.
What's going on?
I can't help but mock. I'm so sorry. Are you used to it by now?
Yeah, but it's really starting to deteriorate my soul. I've become more quiet. I used to be defensive and like repost, like fight back, but now it's just like I'm too tired. You've completely
I've worn you down.
You've worn me down.
Oh
yeah.
no. What's gonna happen? What are we gonna be in 10 years?
Tired.
10 years from now, even more tired. You're gonna be like completely silent and you're just gonna communicate in grunts. You're just gonna be like,
Yeah. I'm already halfway there.
You're halfway there.
I would
Yeah.
love to just communicate in grunts, but for a podcast, that probably wouldn't be very ideal.
No. Maybe in 10 years it could probably happen, where I just think of that movie
Idiocracy?
yes, when like we're gonna have like a grunt language.
It's the idiocracyfication of our country.
Right.
We're almost there.
We're
We're going to be drinking Gatorade instead of water.
we're pretty much almost there. But yeah, there is gonna be like a grunt language for sure. I'm surprised there's not one now for like older generations.
Like Tim the Toolman Taylor?
Yeah. 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 Oh my God. I used to watch that show all the time. Oh my goodness. He's from Detroit. What?
All right, what are we talking about today?
Oh my
What's
gosh. We
raining in?
just started out on a rant.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So today we are talking about, well, every week is the same thing. So this week on Higher Self Take the Wheel, the point of our podcast is to find ourselves and find our higher self and for me, it's a more of a spiritual self. For you, what is it? Is it just trying to figure it out all the way, along the way?
I don't know.
You're in one of those moods, maybe.
I am spiritual, but it's like, okay, what does spiritual mean? Because I have here, like the thing with spirituality that isn't completely, like it does take from history, but it's not very historical.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm more, do you get what I'm saying?
Wait, no, not at all. You barely said anything. What did you say? You're spiritual, but you take from history. You said one. You said one sentence and said, "Do you get?" So no further explain that sentence.
I've watched, okay, so we've been watching the show Hacks, and one of the characters, the younger one, talks about how she makes a joke about, or not even a joke, but she's talking about, she follows somebody on Instagram. I think it's Busy Phillips. About, because she has to like pretend she's knows about jewelry.
She made some joke about her 1,000 stories, right?
Yeah, and just like I'm glad that Go on.
Go on. No, I was about to say.
She says, like, I'm glad the point is, like, she says, I'm glad watching thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of stories on Instagram about this, like, finally paid off. Like, she was able to, like, cosplay effectively, like,
as
somebody
like
that
an
knows
LA,
jewelry, as like
an
an LA jeweler or whatever.
Those
And,
are the
like,
details. Yeah.
I feel like I'm at that point with spirituality. I've watched so many of the posts you've sent me. I follow not a lot, but I still follow, like, I would say enough spiritual coaches and people, and all of the messages I'm getting, it's like all bleeding into like this one main, just gotta get over yourself, get outside of your ego. And it's just like, okay, I get it, but I'm frustrated still because we still live in this late capitalist hellscape dystopia where you have to, even if you are spiritual, you have to convert that passion and your kind of shadow and your trauma of whatever happened to you growing up. You have to convert all of that into how to live in a capitalist reality. Long story short, how to make money doing it. And I'm trying to make money through YouTube right now. I'm not making money through YouTube, but my passion.
You started a YouTube channel,
and it's not very spiritual. Like I will do, like, in this last video, I did talk about tarot very briefly. Like it was 2 minutes out of like 30 minutes
your
of the
YouTube
video.
channel it doesn't touch on spiritual things. And this podcast, because of me, is more spiritual because I'm spiritual leaning. So you're trying to figure out your spiritual self in a sense. Like, how spiritual are you?
I can know like all the things that all these spiritual coaches, like I can recite in my own unique way, like everything I've heard, everything I've digested.
So do you think you're playing a character?
Like, no, I'm frustrated that I'm not successful yet.
Yeah, I got you. How long do you feel like you've tapped into this spiritual self of yours? Like, how long has it been when you first started, just diving into the subject of this?
Well, you've always shown me stuff and given me books, and I've read books. I would say probably about a year ago, I started to take it more seriously. Like I read one of Eckhart Tolle's books, Not the Power of A New Earth. Mm-hmm. I read that one. I haven't read The Power of Now, but I've watched other people talk about it. And that one is about like being in the present moment.
So basically about a year.
Yeah, I would say about a year. And then I really started to take it more seriously around March of this year when we signed up for that course with a couple of spiritual coaches.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say that you have a long way, honey. If it's only been a year, when you kind of, I guess, awaken, that's like the cliche term that everyone uses. It can be like years and years and years until you like really tap into something, or I don't know. It all depends. Like, your journey is yours, but that doesn't necessarily mean. When I first became more spiritual, I thought it was going to happen I thought everything was going to happen within, months.
What do you mean everything was going to happen?
Like, the world was going to change and like everyone was going to become awake, and I didn't realize how long it was going to take for the world to get on, or this earth to get on the spiritual path.
I think that feeling you're talking about, you're never going to feel it in our lifetime. Maybe that's like very cynical, but
I feel like it's in our lifetime. I feel like we're at the beginnings, and then hopefully there is a future where mostly everyone can tap into a spiritual. And maybe you're right. You're right. Like, I'm not sure everyone's going to be their spiritual selves or their spiritual self.
I see what you're saying. Like, because revolution, change, whatever you want to call it, like, it does happen very, very fast.
Yeah.
It's just
And technology is speeding everything up super fast. You know,
but it's not making everybody smarter.
No.
Like there's like the idiocracy
good and a
joke.
bad.
There's people that are like it's concerning. It's concerning how many people just seem to be like have just completely given up. And I think like I voiced this concern to you a couple of years ago because I had or used to have a friend who like politically we're completely different, and it's to the point now where it's just like I don't have a relationship with him. And that relationship was based on like drug use anyway. So it was a very unhealthy relationship. But you made the point where it's like, okay, there's people who are like, how did you put it? You're like, there's two different frequencies. There's like the fear frequency and the love frequency. And like, there are people that at this point are kind of just like beyond saving and beyond like really associating with.
Yeah.
You kind of have to like put those people out of your...
It's like a boundary thing. Because everything, and you kind of have to look at it as everything is energy. So if you look at it like that, people are either giving you energy or draining energy from you. And you have to kind of pick and choose. The higher you kind of raise your, quote unquote frequency or vibration or whatever, it is a lot more draining when you're really around negative people. So you kind of have to just put a boundary there, and then you don't hang out. You just don't hang out with them as much, or you don't see them at all, because either they have to come up to your level or they're just going to like drain all your energy. And I think that's what's happening now is people are just putting up more and more of their boundaries, and they just want to communicate with highly energetic, positive people.
You just
want that loving energy.
But is putting up boundaries like a form of violence? Because I feel like if you put up your boundaries like I am, it's only going to make another person or the other side that much more hateful. Because if you've given up trying to have a relationship with them and maybe you do have to go down to their level. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. Do you get what I'm saying?
You putting up the boundary isn't violent. If they have a violent reaction, then that's on them. They're choosing violence. You're not choosing violence just by putting up your boundary.
But I'm saying there's a lack of effort there by putting up your boundaries. Like I agree.
It can be an effort to put up a boundary. What do you mean?
I mean an effort towards another person. I get it. Like I get that putting up a boundary is something we have to do is like to save our energy and to like maintain our vibration. But I just fear that like a big reason why we're so divided right now is because that is kind of perceived as like elitist or just kind of like I have this like sense that it's just do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
It's like we have to live in the world with these people, you know?
I get what you're saying because this is why I feel you have just more relationships with people that might live in a more cynical world. And with that, you see the cynicism more like you just are connected to it. So you have that. You understand that, and plus you used to be a lot more cynical. So you still have a foot in that world. So you fully understand it. And it's like, you're always going to deal with the cynical world. And you're always going to kind of keep a tab on it or follow it in a sense to see where it's going. It's just, maybe it's just up to you to decide to completely cut it off or completely
right. So like
it doesn't exist.
I don't think a lot of people think about this, and I understand why, because it's like you get to a point where it's like, okay, who cares? They're being weird. But like I'm just curious, okay, what happens when there's no more interaction and that reactive person, that reactive side of society is no longer getting any interaction from people on like a higher vibration or whatever you want to call it? Like what happens then?
Then it's going to be like a complete split. Because right now there's a lot of people in both like going back and forth between like being part, like, you know, tapping into their like positive higher self, and then tapping into like a world where you are in this like 3D, you know, whatever negative quote unquote world, and you go back and forth. There's a lot of people that go back and forth. And if you have to visit family, or if you have a certain set of friends, or if you know, just you're or a workplace, you go to a workplace and you can't help but be in this like negative space. So you have to go back. Some people have no choice but to go back and forth. And I feel like it's going to be a while until we can get to a point where everyone can cut themselves off from both of those worlds. But each and every person is on their own journey. So it depends. I don't know if we're ever going to get to a point where the whole entire system is just like split in half, or you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. I still can't help but wonder, though. It like becomes a numbers game at that point.
Yeah, like when is it going to happen, or if that's ever going to happen?
Well, I mean,
lifetime.
like if you're putting your boundaries up and you're only deciding to like surround yourself with people who are, you know, not hateful, not resentful, etc. I guess it's like you have to cross your fingers and hope that there are more people like that than there are the other side.
Right.
Because it's not like, you know, we get to a point of no return and then what happens?
I see
it's
it
not like
this.
they're going to treat us with love.
Well, you're not going to have any connection or interaction with that other world if everyone just puts their boundaries up and they're no longer connected to the negative you know, hateful side, and they try to surround themselves as much as possible with positive, loving energy. We sound like we're like fucking high right now. We haven't had drugs in like
47 days.
Anyway, this sounds very woo woo, but like, stick with me. So there will be like two separate worlds. So there will be a world of like just a negative energy, like negative timelines, negative happenings, and then there'll be a world where everything is working out. It's more on a positive timeline, and they're just going to be separate. I think that's what's going to happen.
I want to believe, like I hope you're right, but we do still live in a lot of senses in like this 3D world where like, okay, this is where I'm hopeful, and maybe this will sound like, I don't know if this will make sense, but I think this is where kind of like social media and the fact that nothing really has changed for a very long time could be a good thing in a weird way, because my hope is that like it's not going to lead to like violence, like because what revolution in the past has looked very violent, you know what I mean? Okay. And counter revolution, like fascism or Nazism, whatever you want to call it.
So you're saying you can't see a revolution without violence. You can't see. That's the other thing, that when you like bring politics into this, it just like puts another layer on it where you're just like, what the fuck? I don't know what's gonna happen with that. And like the corporations that like pretty much treat us like cattle and control us. Like there has to be a separation there. So we probably still have a long time to go. And maybe you're right. Maybe we're not going to see it in our lifetime, but we are putting the footsteps forward, and we're basically starting the trail in the beginnings of that. Hopefully, who knows how long down the line it's going to change, but I guess we're just like the
you see
start of it.
You see it as a beginning, and in some sense it is a beginning, but like a revival. Because I think of like astrology. Like when I was working on my last video, I was thinking about astrology a lot. I made the point that it's not taken seriously anymore as a science. It's seen as a pseudoscience.
Astrology.
Because since the Enlightenment, which happened in like 16th, 17th century, we got more like quote unquote rational and empirical type of like science where we could measure things. And because astrology deals more in like mysticism, for lack of a better word, like there is like tangible empirical science in it. It's very difficult and complicated, really getting into the weeds of it, but it's just kind of like, my point is that like before the Enlightenment, it wasn't like that. And if we are going to have this like new beginning and this like new wave of like people waking up, I think astrology would have to be a big part of it, like kind of like a revival.
Embracing it. Yeah. And embracing it as something that is looked at as kind of like a truth. And there is still a lot of, it still gets a lot of backlash. I see scientists say that it's, bullshit and all that stuff. But yeah, astrology, I would have to say, would have to be a big part of it. And honestly, the most successful people use astrology in their chart. They figure, that the most successful people use astrology.
Like business people, the people you wouldn't think. Yes. Like, aren't those like low frequency people? How does that work?
Well, they're using the modalities. I mean, it all depends. You can't like specifically put people in groups just because they're a business person. You're like autumn. But you just said the corporations.
But you said the corporations are bad.
Yeah.
So
okay, it's a very
more complicated.
It's a lot complicated than what you're just being like. Oh, business people are low frequency, negative people.
That's capitalism, though. It thrives on contradiction, and one of the contradictions is
it does.
Okay, you have to make a lot of money, and it's okay to be a millionaire, and it's okay to have your own business and set it up like corporately because you kind of have to. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're also saying how problematic corporations are because they operate on this very low vibration, go, work all the time, be productive.
Exploitive. They work, the way that they operate is they exploit. So that is a low vibration. Yeah. But if you're a business person, that doesn't automatically mean that you are gonna exploit people. I mean, yes.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because there are many businesses out there that
they'll outsource a lot of their work, and
there's a lot that do that, but there's a lot that don't. There's a lot that have good business procedures, and there are. Not many. I'm not saying, and it's hard to name off.
So you're saying it's rare.
It's rare, yeah.
Okay, but I don't think I was really categorizing them. That's what I like.
Yeah, like I guess I just don't want to generalize because also I am a business person. I'm not a corporation, but just being like, if you own a business, then you are automatically low frequency. That's not.
I'm just questioning the contradiction.
What contradiction? The
contradiction between like how corporations and businesses, we have this idea of them of being exploitative and low frequency. Yet at the same time, it's also true that there are millionaires and successful entrepreneurs
that use astrology. Just because you use astrology doesn't mean you're using the tool to become successful, and you're using that tool for your gain. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to become like a better person in a sense, like a higher self or whatever. You're using that modality, but it doesn't mean. There's a lot of successful spiritual people though that are like really, really, really rich. And just because you're really, really rich does not mean that you are low frequency. I get what you're saying. But you do have like a negative connotation with people that are rich.
I am suspicious.
Yeah, you do.
There are spiritual people, even ones I follow, who I'm suspicious of. Not because they're rich, but because like...
Because they're rich. Oh, not because they're rich, but because why? Huh? Because they're rich. They got money. They have abundance. but that's them living in their truth, their purpose.
But also, like, I don't think they're saying, like, it's their content that I...
Okay, well, yeah,
like,
that's a different thing. That's a different thing.
That's a judgment, but also, like, saying somebody has low frequency is also a judgment, and it's subjective. Because that same person you could be judging for being low... What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does it even mean? We're just, like... That's what I mean. Like, you're...
This is the barrier of language.
Yeah.
And language is a human thing, and it's perfect. It's imperfect.
Yeah, and that's where it shows, like, each person's, like, for lack of a better word, journey is very individual. Like, just because somebody uses astrology doesn't necessarily mean that they're a very spiritual person.
It was very hard for me to, like, accept that. Who's a oil tycoon from, like, the 19th century, the really bad one?
Oh, there's some
Rockefeller. When I heard he, like,
or the other one,
chart,
yeah.
It's just very weird because you associate astrology with, like, it's only good people. No. And I know I have a very Disney, like, good versus evil thing going on here, but that was, like, very challenging for me to, like, to discover that.
When you heard that, yeah, like, really evil. The business people in the early 1900s that basically put the capitalist system in place. Use astrology.
Yeah, because and maybe this I am categorizing, but it's very simple to just lump those type of people into, like, people who would be, like, pro-enlightenment and, like, think astronomy is some bullshit. But they didn't think that. They thought, you get what I'm saying? Like, the businessman entrepreneur,
right.
I don't know.
I get it. You're like,
it's really complicated.
How can this spiritual tool of astrology and, like, it's linked to so much, like, good? How can these evil people use it? Like, I get it. But that just shows, like, there's so many people that claim to be spiritual and do all this stuff and are connected to, what's like other dimensions. They're, like, connected. They have a high, like, intuitive. They're highly intuitive.
Have a high intuition.
Yeah, they're highly
good. And yeah, like,
good at using it, but they're not necessarily using it for good or help. They're using it to take advantage of people. They're using it to manipulate people and get, whatever they want, more power, more money. There's a ton of, like, I guess you can say, evil people that use that highly intuitive nature that they have and just use to suck up people's energy or, get what they want out of people. Not like there is, just because they have that gift and that skill doesn't mean they're using it for good. There's a ton of people out there.
I know. It was challenging because I'm already, like, naturally inclined to be suspicious of astrology and spirituality. So it's like in my mind, I had it to be, like, 100% for the betterment in order to, like, fully go full bore into it. So then when I discover that, it's like, it was very disappointing to me.
I see. Yeah. But you're just going to, like, no matter what it is, no matter what, even religion or anything, the principles are, I would say the principles to any religion or, philosophy that you kind of follow make sense and are probably, nothing wrong with them. The problem is when people get into it and become leaders and become, like, these, I don't know, these preachers or whatever. People just ruin everything for lack of
people with power.
Yeah.
And people who are, like, are fortunate enough to, like, have this, fortunate in, like, their own selfish way where they're able to, like, make money.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I keep coming back to is, like, and that's why I'm suspicious of rich people, because a good percentage of the time, in order to get rich, you have to prevent other people from being rich.
But this is a belief that you have. You had to believe also that there are people that are rich and didn't get their money from exploiting others, and they're rich by helping people. They're abundant in their purpose of what they're doing and why they were put on this earth. So if you find your purpose, money comes to you easily. That is a belief you have to like kind of maybe just allow yourself to believe that, instead of believing that all rich people are exploitative and evil. Because then you'll never be rich. And do you want to be rich? You probably don't, huh?
What does that mean? Like, I want to be able to travel. So, yeah, okay. I guess I do want to be rich, because in order to travel, like, I don't want to, I'm a homebody, so I would like to travel maybe, this is all I want out of life. Like, I'm happy with our house, even though it has a lot of problems.
All houses do, yeah.
And if we're going to have, like, a child, I would like to be able to provide financially for that child. I would like to maybe update our house a little bit and then travel once a year. That's all I want. Yeah. I don't want a new car. I don't want these like crazy updates to our house. I don't
clothing. I don't want a watch. No. You don't. Yeah, you don't. No, want. I really don't. You are not materialistic at all. So you just want to be comfortable and have enough money to do stuff when you want to do it. I get that. But I feel like you always will be struggling if you don't get it out of your head that good people don't have money.
Yeah, you're probably right.
There is like a blockage there. Look at me therapize. I love that.
Therapizing? That's a new word.
So we got to a core, something to maybe check your belief.
You are so proud of yourself over there.
I am so proud. I got to it.
My eyes are rolling so far in the back of their heads right now. I'm about to have a seizure. I'm literally about to have a seizure.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like you're just staring at me. I don't think you. Well, anyway, so this has been kind of like just a rant and ramble on a subject that we went on, but it's been good. We figured out something. I figured out a belief that maybe you have to check yourself on, and I know I do all the time. So stop.
I'm just waiting for you to end. I got nothing else. I'm tired.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been good. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone who's listening have a pleasant day, night, evening, afternoon, sleep. Okay, now I'm just like talking.
I think you hit them all.
Yeah. Okay. Good night.
Good night.